Hello, day 22. Thanks for all your feedback on the last few posts. I got a bit of feedback from some people there, and it's been very helpful to know that I suppose that I'm not leading anyone astray really, and that what I'm trying to achieve is kind of, I wouldn't say obvious, but it's certainly apparent to people. So that's good to know, and thanks for that, and keep it coming. We're on the wind down now, so I don't have any kind of particular immediate topics I want to talk about. There was something I saw there. What was it? Oh yeah. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about insecurity, I suppose, for want of a better term. Sometimes the way that we're raised doesn't apply. This isn't something that applies across the board. But something else I noticed watching back the videos. I touch my face so much, my body's scratching my head. I don't know. It's just the way I am. The way that we are raised sometimes as boys and as men is to be unchallenged. You could call it male privilege, you could call it white male privilege, you could call it a lot of things, cishet male privilege. There's a lot of things, a lot of names you could give it. But basically, we can spend a lot of our lives unchallenged in our ideals, unchallenged in what we believe is the way the world should move. And it means that when we are challenged, as we are rightly being challenged now, and I'll clarify that in a second, we don't quite know what to do with ourselves. Now you could call it toxic masculinity as well. And how does that play into trauma and depression? It's because we don't know how to deal with those emotions. Going right back to the start of how we talked about this at the start. We don't know how to deal with those emotions. We're not taught to deal with those emotions because we're kind of given everything. We take for granted that this is the world we live in. We take for granted that the world is tailored to our needs. We take for granted that the things we are given to us and the inherent advantages we have by the colour of our skin, our gender, our sexuality, sexual orientation, gender identity, all of those things we take for granted that we have, and that's the definition of privilege. And those privileges now are being challenged. So we're looking at women's marches, we're looking at LGBTQIA marches, we're looking at Black Lives marches, and all these things are to challenge the status quo. As cishet white men, we're raised not to understand that there is a status quo. We don't see it as a status quo. We see it as life, as everyday life, that this is just the way it is. And if you've got a hardship, that hardship is a problem, but it's not my problem. And that is actually where the problem lies. The fact that we refuse to accept that these issues are our issues to address. So, lads, wake up. The world is changing. It's changing for the better. It needs to change. You can either be part of the change and the solution, or you can continue to be part of the problem. By refusing to identify that there is an issue, you continue to be part of the problem. But that's got nothing to do with me. What did I do? You didn't do anything. Nobody's having a go at you. Nobody's telling you that you're wrong. What people are asking, is for you to recognise that the world is not equal, the world is not a level playing field, and to recognise the privilege that you have. If you can't recognise your own privilege, then you will just continue to be part of the problem. And you will raise children who will continue to be part of the problem. And yeah, I am having a go at you about that. So if you're getting offended by that, tough. If you don't believe that there is an issue in the world at the moment that you can't influence, by raising a generation that comes afterwards who is more empathetic, who is more accepting, who is more open to the way the world is, then these cycles will repeat themselves. Where do you think they came from in the first place? They came from the generations that came before us, and how they didn't teach us to deal with our emotions, to deal with our feelings, and to recognize the privilege that we have. So, that's my lesson today. I'm going to keep these a bit shorter. Been getting long. So, yeah, lads, just recognize that you live in a world that's tailored to you. You never question when you go to an interview that you might not get the job because of what you're wearing. You never question that you might not get the job because of the colour of your skin. You never question that you might not get the job because of who you love. These are not things you question. You have to question them. It's no good anymore to sit back and accept that this is the world that we live in. So wake up. Do something about it. Start at home. Start with your kids. Talk to your kids. Raise them to understand the problems in the world so that they can fix them themselves, and so they don't make the same mistakes as came before. Okay? I have spoken. Three days to go. Talk to you tomorrow.